Hey, do you like crazy dystopian sci-fi movies? Well, I've got a classic one for you. Brazil. Now, ever since I was a young kid, I've been a fan of Monty Python. What I always liked the best about Monty Python was those animated segments. Kind of between sketches, the little segue animation done by Terry Gilliam. Well, he appeared the least on screen of any of the Python gang. He is also the sole American amongst the mostly British Monty Python cast. But Terry Gilliam's always been a kind of behind-the-scenes kind of guy. He was the animator for those original classic shows. He also did a lot of animation and direction of the Monty Python movies. He's made some of my favorite movies. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He's also responsible for stuff like 12 Monkeys, Monty Python's Meaning of Life, The Fisher King, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Then you get to some of his lesser movies. In particular, there's one I really didn't like. Was called Tideland. Not a recommended film in any case, no. Also, Jabberwocky. Never really cared for that. It was a little weird and out there and kind of boring. This one, Brazil, is actually one of his best, I guess you could say. It's not my personal favorite of Terry Gilliam's work, but it's highly acclaimed as a visual masterpiece. I think it's quoted on the box here somewhere. The New York Times called it a remarkable accomplishment. Yeah, it's a dystopian future, very industrial, grungy. It's not post-apocalyptic, but it's like this, everything is super urbanized, super bureaucratic. Everything is supposedly held in order by this kind of fascist regime. Just the different layers of government, and it's all a bunch of red tape, and it's just so ridiculous. There's a minister of everything. Each boss has a boss, and bosses above them. There's a form for everything. And it's a very bleak outlook on the way our society is headed. But our main protagonist, played by Jonathan Pryce, he's a dreamer. He's a bureaucrat, but he's kind of like stuck, and he feels trapped and, powerless in his day-to-day routine. He's not super ambitious, which doesn't suit this world very well. He's often having daydreams about being a flying angel-like superhero kind of guy and meeting this beautiful, gorgeous fairy princess of a woman. Yeah, he's a little bit unhinged, but he keeps it together enough to get his job done and to get himself involved in this story. Basically, there's a mistake made in his department at work, and he accepts a promotion in order just to look into this mistake, because they don't make mistakes. This is the first time this has ever happened. And he encounters one of the victims of said mistake, who just happens to look exactly like the girl in his dreams. So he's obsessed with finding the truth about this whole situation, and he gets in a bunch of trouble because he has some interaction with a potential terrorist who is like an actual underground superhero kind of thing. I don't know. Played by Robert De Niro. There's a lot of good characters and a lot of good actors in here. Ian Holm, Bilbo. Michael Palin from the aforementioned Monty Python has a starring role in this as well. Bob Hoskins is also in this, Eddie Valiant, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah, so the acting talent is all in there. And the story is somewhat confusing, but I think that really plays into the whole confusing, messy bureaucracy setting. and it really contributes to the whole kind of feel of the movie. Meanwhile, the visuals in here are spectacular, I think. I mean, for 1985, which is when this movie was made, like, the sets are really well done. There's a lot of matte paintings, stuff like that, the futuristic looking backgrounds, and it's industrial and classical and kind of noir at the same time. A little bit futuristic, but all the like gadgets and things in this future world are all kind of look like they're ripped straight out of the 40s or the 50s. So it's an advanced but kind of ridiculously stunted kind of society. Like, just can't get past all that bureaucracy, man. So I get kind of what the vision that Terry Gilliam had for this. I kind of get what he's saying here. I mean, he's kind of making fun of how absurd, this industrial capitalist lifestyle really is. It wasn't nearly as exciting enough. There just wasn't enough going on in this movie other than a guy sneaking around and some random weird stuff happening to him and him having hallucinations. I mean, just because it's a sci-fi, I'm not expecting lightsabers. But that would have been nice. A lot of people consider this to be a classic sci-fi movie, or one of Terry Gilliam's best. While I disagree with that, I still think it's a good movie, but I'm just not seeing what everybody's seeing in it. I mean, I much preferred Baron Munchausen. I much preferred Time Bandits, just because those ones were a little more fantastical and a little less bleak, I suppose. It's got a few kind of like dark images in there, a little bit haunting, I guess you could say. Just kind of a very oppressive feeling to the whole thing, which again, I guess, was the point of it. I hadn't seen this movie since probably around 1988 or so, I think was the last time I watched it. I'm pretty sure the reason why I waited so long was because it was kind of confusing and boring. And it is still a little bit of that, but I guess I appreciated it a little bit more because I kind of, now that I'm older and I can kind of look at these things a little more skeptically, because you know how jaded you get when you get old, right? It'll happen to you too. Overall, I still think I'd give this one a B-. Because of its length, it's kind of long, and because there wasn't enough really going on in this movie for my tastes, not enough of the fantastical, you know what I mean? It also has a kind of predictable but unsatisfying ending, but I'm not going to spoil anything, so I think you should watch this, especially if you like Terry Gilliam. You're not going to find this as funny as some of his other movies, and it's, like I said, not as fantastical as some of his other movies. Pretty crazy. If you like crazy and crazy interesting, this is a movie for you. So until next time, folks, stay safe and have a good one.